One tip that a good friend of mine always told me is always undercook it. So, yeah, cook it rare. The rarer, the better. My grandma was like, oh, I would never eat that. That's so horrible. It's so greasy. So we cooked it up, and she's like, anytime you ever shoot a bear and you don't call me over for dinner, I'm going to be real mad. It was the trip of a lifetime for sure. 2 women hunting and just like getting it done and powering through the most intense terrain that you've ever been through. I was just standing there and I heard something coming, like literally right to my right. So I look over and it is a little tiny cub. So I'm like, great, where is the mom? It's hard work being a hunter. You have to put in work. You cannot just lay in a bed and watch TV and kill a deer. Any other information that I help with in aiding somebody become a better hunter or things that I've learned along the way, I'm always happy to pass that on. This is Rihana Cary, and you're listening to Live in Country in the City.
Y'all ready for your dose of flyover state spirit? Straight from the concrete jungle? Well, put down your latte and pull on your boots. It's time for Living Country in the City.
Hey y'all, welcome to episode 77 of Living Country in the City. Want to say a big thank you to all of you who have been patiently waiting for me to release another episode. Between work, some personal projects, trips, and just a bunch of stuff going on, I've been absolutely crazy and just have not been able to keep up with the content. So I would like to very much apologize and say thank you all for tuning back in. We are back at it, and hopefully I won't be missing any more. Also, I want to say a big thank you to the folks over at Sawyer Products for being continual sponsors of the podcast. I would not be able to do what I do here at Living Country in the City without their support. If y'all are looking for those really simple products, the kind of stuff that is designed to keep you in the outdoors for longer, check out Sawyer Products. They have some of the most reliable, trusted gear out there, stuff like insect repellents, first aid, and water filtration. So make sure y'all check them out at Sawyer.com. All right, so moving on to the episode. I got a chance today to talk with the one and only Rihana Cary. We honestly covered just a little bit of everything from cooking wild game to hunting bears to trips to New Zealand. So hope you all enjoy this one. Well, here we are. Rihana, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast with me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I was super excited when you asked me to be on it, and I was like, heck yeah, let's do it.
Well, I always like to start just with a little bit of background about yourself. How did you get your start in like hunting and angling and the outdoors?
Yeah, my start is definitely, it's similar to a lot of people I've found. I was actually vegan for a short time. I would say I did it for about 3 months, and I really just quickly found that it wasn't the best for me. Some people, maybe it's works for them, but for me, it was horrible. I just lost too much weight, and I just didn't have energy. I didn't feel very good. So the reason I had decided to go vegan was because I was actually in nursing school, and I was doing a paper on agribusiness and factory farming and, where meat comes from. And it was shocking for me to really, digest what our meat industry is like. Mm-hmm. And so that caused me to quit eating meat. I was in college, so obviously I wasn't able to afford the organic meat. And I was like, maybe I'll just try it. I've never tried to be vegan before. And it was really tough. It was really tough for me because obviously you like cheese and eggs and all that type of thing. So
that's my stopping point, if nothing else, is, I have no desire to give up meat in any fashion, but like vegan is so far beyond, I would probably die before I gave up like cheese.
I tried, well, what it was, one of the books I read, it was called Slaughterhouse, and then I read this other really funny comical book called Skinny Bitch, and the statistics on like milk and cheese, it was insane. So, I definitely took it to the extreme because this book was to the extreme. And I quickly realized, that book was one-sided, so one-sided, because there really are great farmers, and there really are people who care about what's going on the plate. And so for me, it was just kind of being ignorant. I didn't really do my homework on both sides of the story. So I quickly realized that, I couldn't be vegan anyway. So I had to figure out an alternative. And I had never hunted before. And it started with being introduced to it by my ex. And I couldn't believe his freezer. I was just like, oh my gosh, that's the craziest thing I've ever seen. So I was like, okay, like this meat I can do. I'm gonna cook it. I'm gonna make it good. And it was intimidating at first. It was so intimidating. I'm like, what do I do with this elk steak? I have no idea. And I quickly realized that it's just like beef. So cooking it, I made it so fun. And I decided, I was like, you know what? Maybe I want to do this. Maybe I want to try hunting. I want to be involved in the process and make sure that it's something that I can do and make sure that I'm okay with it. I've always been an animal lover, like I joke, I want to farm and like goats and cows and horses and chickens. And so it was hard, but I decided to do it. And being a nursing student, I was also really excited to see the inside of the animal, which sounds really weird. Sounds super weird, but yeah, it was really interesting to me, all of the functions and, looking inside the chambers of the heart. And so for me, it was kind of like an anatomy project as well as way to get meat. So, and from there I was hooked. My very first deer I shot with a rifle, and it was insane. It was the very last day, the last hour. We were actually leaving, driving out of the area, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's a buck right there. So, we stocked up on it and got super close, and I made a good shot. And so, it was really cool. It was just cool to get my hands dirty and do everything myself. And, even though I didn't know how to do it, my family that was teaching me they were very, you got to do it yourself. You have to do it. If you're going to do it, you need to learn how to do it and know how to do every single process. So you're going to skin it. You're going to take the meat off. You're going to debone it and package it up. And so that's kind of their test to see if you're going to make it or not. And so for me, I was like, yes, this is awesome. Like so much fun. And they're like, okay, you can come hunt with us. You can, you can be a part of the process. And so it was definitely an interesting process, but I found so many hunters have the same story. It's people who don't want to eat the beef or the chicken, or, they want more of a connection to what they're putting in their bodies, whether it's vegetables or meat. So yeah, that's how I got started. So
talking about that first hunt, how did, from what you expected going in, somebody taking you on your first hunt, how was it, what did you expect versus how it actually was? What were maybe some of the surprises of that first hunt that you can remember?
Well, I definitely remember hiking my butt off and not seeing anything. This was the first deer that we saw. And we were going out for, I think it was only a week-long season. And we were going out every single day because I was going to get a deer. I wanted one, I was like, okay, this is going to happen. I'm using a rifle. I'm going to get it done. We were in a good area. And every single day, I'm like, okay, today's going to be the day. I'm going to see something. Nope, nothing. Or just a doe, or it was only a buck tag. So for me, it was a lot harder than I expected. It was challenging, but at the same time, I loved it. I just was like, it doesn't matter. This is so cool. Getting up before most people, seeing the sunrise, and really just being out in nature was really cool for me. And so, I would say that probably it was harder than I expected, but it was rewarding. And when I was leaving, I was okay with not getting a deer. I was like, okay, that's fine. Like, I still had an amazing time. So when people say it's not about the kill, 100%, it's not about the kill. Obviously, you want the meat, but yeah, for me, I was fulfilled even without filling my tag until the last moment, which is typically how it happens anyways.
Yeah. Well,
so that's what I would say.
So you talked about a little bit. You kind of mentioned something that I feel like to some extent I anticipate for myself, and I can't remember exactly how you phrased it, but I almost feel like there was like a little pressure when you're cooking wild game meat or something that you worked so hard to either yourself to get or somebody else did. I feel like, it's like whatever, I screw up a burger or whatever, a steak. It's not that big of a deal. I'll probably still eat it.
Big of a deal.
Yeah, it's like, whatever. But I sit there and I think, I'm like, man, when I take my first elk, every single cut of meat that I cook off of that thing, I'm going to be nervous that I'm going to screw this up because of how hard I worked for it.
Exactly. And two, it's intimidating just looking at the meat anyways, because you're like, that doesn't look like a beefsteak.
Yeah.
That doesn't look like what comes out of the package. It's not bright red, and it doesn't have any marbling on it, and it's dark, and you're just like, okay, what do I even do with this thing? But one tip that a good friend of mine always told me is always undercook it. I mean, when you're taking care of the animal, it's your hands that are touching it, and you're always washing them, keeping them clean. And out in the field, really, there's not unless you get in the guts or the meat gets really dirty from like mostly gut bacteria or whatever. Then the meat is going to be cleaner than eating raw beef or eating even raw fish. So cook it rare. The rarer, the better. And it's not bloody like a beefsteak would be if you cook it rare. It is kind of juicy, but it's just better that way. I would say always make sure that you undercook it rather than overcook it. And try it first. And if you don't like it that rare, then just put it on for another minute or two. Because, it's always better to undercook it than overcook it. Because if you overcook it, it can taste like you're eating like a badger or something.
Yeah, I can imagine. And that's also dependent on the animal too. Like that would be for 100%. Like deer or elk or certain things. Something like bear.
Well, deer, even deer. Oh yeah, bear you don't want to undercook.
You cook the hell out of bear.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you get it to the right temperature. You don't have to cook the hell out of it, but you need to make sure. They say 165, but 145 is really what will actually kill it. And I think it's you want it at that temperature for however long. I mean, don't quote me. Do it 165, everyone. But for me, I know that 145 is gonna take care of that. And I do know somebody that's gotten it, so you just definitely want to definitely be careful. But typically too, I mean, you can also have your meat tested if you're that worried about it. They do it for free, meat testing, and you can have it tested, and then it comes back. If you want to eat it rare, then eat it rare.
There you go.
Yeah.
Little bear tartare.
Yeah. People might not be that into it. I mean, I love bear, honestly, but it's all in how you cook it. And I've definitely realized that over time, you can't put the same seasonings on an antelope that you put on an elk sometimes. I mean, and two, it depends on what they're eating. I mean, it's crazy, the differences in game. I mean, some people don't like it because it tastes too gamey, but it's all in how you take care of it in the field and also what the animal's been eating. So there's a lot that goes into it. I
had a good podcast with Jeremiah Dowdy where we talked a lot about that. He talked about like, okay, you've got an antelope that's out eating this type of grass versus this other type of foliage, it's going to make the meat taste significantly different. Also,
100%.
If you're chasing bear, there's a big difference between spring bear and fall bear, or bear that's 100%. Been rummaging through berries versus through gut piles. So
exactly. What time of year, location, they all have a factor in what the animal tastes like. And if you try the meat, you just really don't like it, there's so many things you can do to it too that really hide the flavor. Like I had a mule deer and it was real sagey. It was like real hard for me. I was like, and two, sometimes they smell like they do in the field. They've just got like, especially ruddy bucks. Oh my gosh, sometimes they could just be very, very pungent. And when you're eating them, you're smelling you're tasting the that you smell when you went and took care of the animal. So it can be like kind of a mind trick. So what I would do or suggest to a new hunter in that situation, don't waste the meat. Don't make it dog food, but turn it into like a sausage or put it into, like a bratwurst or something like that. You could do breakfast patties or too, if it's kind of got that interesting flavor anyways, then it can add a lot of good flavor into like the breakfast sausage. So that would be my suggestion for if you don't like the meat, don't waste it.
Yeah, I feel like there's always a way to make the meat work and make it good and complement it.
100%.
And, I think that's a lot of, if I remember correctly, a lot of what I talked about with Jeremiah is one of his favorite games to play is he'll find someone that says like, oh, I hate deer meat or I hate this or whatever, the universal word, it tastes gamey. And then he'll ask them what kind of dishes they like, and he'll find a way to prep that deer similar to a dish they like and make something that they'd really enjoy. And that's kind of his own personal game. I thought that was
100%
really cool.
Yeah, we've done that with bear. Just had my grandma was like, oh, I would never eat that. Oh, I would never eat that. That's so horrible. It's so greasy. So we cooked it up, and I mean, you would never know. And she's like, anytime you ever shoot a bear and you don't call me over for dinner, I'm going to be real mad. It's you can definitely change your perception of things, and especially, change the flavor of any meat. You just have to know how to cook it. And some people don't like that process. Some people don't like to cook it. But for me, like, that's really like one of my favorite things to do. And it sucks so bad because I just moved into a new house and I totally demoed the whole thing, and I don't even have a kitchen. I haven't had a kitchen for like a month. And I'm like, okay, I'm going a little bit stir crazy, but eating a lot of Mexican food.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. You're talking to a Southern California kid here. So I have a weakness for Mexican food, but I can also see that would be. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just finally got my stove in my fridge. Of course, it's coming tomorrow. So it's been a work in progress, but it's like finally getting to the point where I can like start putting my kitchen together, which is the most rewarding part. So finally. So
we have this nursing student killing her first deer, gutting it, everything, prepping it, falling in love with hunting. So what takes you from that first time hunter all the way up to where you're at now? What happened there?
Just, I guess, pure love for the outdoors, 100%. I mean, and to cooking and eating the wild game. It's crazy. I think I started hunting 7 years ago, which is not that long in all, respect to hunters. It's really not that long, but I think over those 7 years, I have hunted more than a lot of people. I was lucky. I had the opportunity to go a lot of different places, and I actually quit my job as a nurse and was working per diem and would let them know, hey, I'm in town this week. Do you want me on the schedule? And I'm going to be gone for 2 months, but I'll be back and I'll let you know. Put me on for a month, and then I'm going to be gone again for 3 months. So it's been a really interesting process, and I don't even know how I got to where I am, I guess out of pure love for what I'm doing. But I feel really fortunate and lucky that I've hunted all different types of species and game and been really lucky with elk. I think, too, I've been pretty successful, and I attribute that a lot to, my teachers. But I just love it, and I feel like I've been blessed to be able to spend a lot of time doing it, which has been really key in my progression, I think, as a hunter. Because, I mean, it is getting out and doing it and having so many failures and few successes. So the more time you spend outdoors, the more successes that you're going to have. So for me, I feel like just because I was able to spend a lot more time than the normal person, I've had a lot more success. But yeah, I mean, it's hard for like a new hunter. You know, you see these people on social media just getting it done and, you know, whatever, but it is not as easy as it looks. And majority of the time you're going to go home empty-handed. And I myself have gone home empty-handed several times, and it's a very humbling experience, but it's also, you just learn, you take and learn what you can from each experience and, you know, apply it to the next one, which I met some really, really incredible ladies this past weekend. I'm a part of ladies hunting camp, which they need it for men for sure, because it's such a cool experience meeting women coming from all over the country. And I actually teach archery at it. So, okay. You know, they're talking about how, you know, I got started hunting for my ex, and, you know, we're not together anymore, so I have to come and learn how to do everything myself, and I just want to get an elk so bad. Or one gal got an elk, and, you know, she's like, I don't even know how I got it done or what happened, how I got it, but I did, and now I need to learn how to be a better hunter so I can keep filling my freezer. Like, it's so cool to see, you know, it growing into more people wanting to do it and get clean organic meat for the family. I don't even know. I'm like running off in tangents. Hopefully, I guess that's what podcasting is, right?
Yeah. Hey, this works. The less I have to talk, the better. People don't tune into these to hear from me.
But really, so have you been hunting for a while? Like, I don't really know that much about you. I do know Jess Byers, and she was telling me a little bit. She's been on your podcast before. So, but so have you hunted? What have you hunted?
So I got into hunting, you know, I just, my family never was against it, anything like that, but it was never anything we really did. We'd go camping, you know, we'd fish every summer when we'd go camping, and that was really the extent of it. It was a vacation thing for me, but I started getting into guns more and shooting, and I just enjoyed target shooting, things like that, but I've always been the type of person where I need an end goal for something. Like, I need a reason to be doing it. Like, shooting just to learn to shoot for me was becoming unsatisfying. Yeah. And so I was like, well, you know, I should look into hunting. And then I started, you know, following hunters on Twitter and Facebook, and this was before I was even on Instagram, and I was really getting interested, and then all of a sudden I start seeing people shooting bows. And I'm like, oh man, I used to shoot one as a kid. I loved it. I still think they're amazing. And I went into Bass Pro, and I've said it before, they saw a sucker coming from a mile away. They sent the pretty sales girl over to me, and I blacked out and woke up sitting in my car with a bow. I don't know what happened in between. I don't know what happened in between her walking up and me leaving the cash register, but I walked out with a bow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was about 3 years ago. And
nice.
And you know, I didn't really know anything. I mean, I was kind of like, as far as I was aware, you know, people went and sat in tree stands, and you know, and that's kind of what you did, and you didn't do anything like these backcountry elk hunts unless you'd been hunting for 20 years, and you know, you had thousands and thousands of dollars and all of this, and so it was this weird process. And I went, and my ex's family is from Mississippi, and they you know, they have a bunch of land, and so they took me out to a few different spots, and I sat in a tree stand and saw a handful of deer that were pretty much all out of range. And I mean, I learned a lot from that. It was interesting. It was fascinating for me. It was exciting, and it was freezing cold out, but you probably couldn't have pulled me out of that tree stand if you had tried.
I've hunted whitetails before. I know what you're talking about.
It's like you're always sitting there thinking like, okay, no, one's going to come out in a minute. One's going to come out in a minute. But
you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking, how much longer? Because like, I can't feel my fingers. I can't feel my toes. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't feel my face. Is that a snowflake on my eyelash? Oh yeah, that's
well, it's like now they have the giant like big like tree stand snuggies that you can wear. They're like giant sleeping bag suits for tree stands.
Well, if I had one of those, maybe I would have stayed longer. But I'm like, I can't feel anything. but
yeah, I had a coworker. I had a camo cover on my laptop, and he kind of gave me this look. I think he was wearing a Kuyu puffy at the time, and so we kind of gave each other this like camo kind of questioning look, and we ended up talking. And he's been doing this pretty much his entire life, and he started talking to me about elk hunting, and I'm like, oh man, that's crazy.
In California, a coworker in California.
There's a lot of it's hard to draw tags, but there's actually a lot of elk. A lot of elk here in California.
Well, you guys have 3 species of elk. You're the only state that has the Thule, and then you've got the Rockies, and you've got Roosevelt. So you guys are real lucky. That's what I've been putting in for is Thule. I mean, I might draw it someday in my life, but
yeah, that's the one thing I've been looking at moving out of California. Well, I've been looking at that for a long time. But opportunities have been coming up recently where it might become a reality this year. And
that would be exciting.
I am so floored, but I also sit and think, I'm like, man, my draw odds for Thule elk shoot way down the second I get out of here.
I know. Well, even if you're a resident, it still is real hard.
Yeah, it's like a once-in-a-lifetime dream hunt for sure.
Yeah.
But
yeah, definitely, unless you've got a lot of money then. But I do know some people who have hunted them and drawn it, so that's pretty exciting. It gives me some hope. I put in for it anyways. I mean, there's a lot of other states that have way better elk hunting, so I don't put in for Rockies or Roosevelt, but sure. Thule is, and I do put in for sheep, I think, in California, because it's really actually pretty cheap. If you already are buying your hunting license, and I think it's relatively cheap to put in for sheep and all of that kind of stuff, so I'm like, why not? I love coming to California to hunt blacktail, so I'm actually doing that this year. I am coming down on the 18th, so
nice.
I'll be in Northern California. Yeah. But California does have some good hunting, surprisingly. I mean, you guys have tons of predators, heaps and heaps of predators, but I mean, there's definitely some great blacktail there.
Blacktail's great here. Hog, there's a lot of good spots for hog.
Yes. I've been hog hunting there too.
There's so many black bears around here, especially up towards. You're up in Oregon, right?
Yes.
So up towards not too far from the border. I've been told there's some incredible black bear hunting down here.
I saw 16 bears in like 7 days or 8 days. Yeah, 17. I actually posted a video on my Instagram of this really cool color-phased bear. It was like out chomping on the bushes at like 1 o'clock in the dead heat, like just foraging around. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a bear. And I was with my friend Perry, and he goes, there's no way there's a bear out in this freaking heat. And I was like, yes, there is a brown, huge bear right down there. And so sure enough, it was a bear. I was right. And it was really cool to watch him. I was like, should we go after it? I don't think anyone had a bear tag at that point. And two, we only had a few days to try and fill two archery blacktail tags. So it was like, let's just go after blacktail. You have to think about, you have to think about bear is the meat can go bad so fast in that heat. And also the cape, because it's just so greasy. And I mean, you have to give up your hunting to go and take everything back and basically take it all the way into town and then come back and go blacktail hunting. So it's like, unless it's a giant in a really cool like color, then it's like, but you probably should, because you need to also take care of the population there.
Yeah.
There's
well,
we've
got, pretty much unlimited bear tags, and it's just one of those things where there's a limit of bears that can be taken each year, and once that limit is reached, then then all the hunting for bears stops. I don't think that limit has ever been reached.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure. I would actually, if anybody listening knows the stats on how many times that limit has been reached in California, I would love to hear it, because every time I've looked, it's not even close.
I bet when you could hunt with dogs there, because you used to be able to hunt with hounds, hunt bears. I bet when you could hunt with hounds, maybe it had been reached, but I don't know how long California has been hound free exactly. But especially for cougars too. You guys have so many freaking cats.
I can't remember who it was. Gosh, who was I talking to? I was talking to someone, and they said they will not come hunt California anymore because the only time they've ever had an issue, they've seen plenty of cougars, they've hunted cougars, but the only time there's ever been an issue with a cougar has been in California because they're super brazen.
Yeah.
They know they have no predators. They don't have any fear of anything because they see a human and nothing ever happens. And they're usually pretty hungry unless, there's a good contingent of household pets in the neighborhood they're prowling.
Well, especially when you have that many, they have a very wide range. And so, they get kicked out of one area, go to the next, and anything they see, they're going to go after, even though we don't fit their predatory profile. Like those desperate ones are going to, go after you. It doesn't happen too often from what I hear, but, that's something I'm going to be aware of when I'm hunting there for sure. And bears too. I mean, especially sows with cubs or something like that, because we did see a few of those as well. That's why I think 16 bears, because there was a bunch of sows that had little babes. So California is almost a hidden state, so maybe we should keep it that way.
Well, we've got a lot of the fundraising draws too, which are honestly, I mean, I know a lot of people put in for those, but it's relatively inexpensive to, especially if you're getting your license, you're putting in for those draws. Why not, drop $50-$60 by, 5 or 6 entries into that draw, and that may be the one time you ever get a sheep hunt or you can get a Thule elk hunt out of that. The odds are probably better with those because you can buy as many entries as you want.
I'm sure that's what a lot of people do, actually. For Thule especially. Would be a smart thing to do. But so I am coming to California in a few weeks, so that'll be fun. I'm excited for that.
That'll be a lot of fun. I've heard, I know a lot of people come out to California because we have that super early opening season in July. It's short as hell, but we start so early that people, that was my big problem when I first started that first year. I went out, and it was kind of later season. I went out and I hunted my friend's land. I was like, I'm in love with this. I have to do this more. So I'm like, all right, can I go back to California and, get some over-the-counter opportunities and figure this out? And I look, and it's like, nope, all your seasons are over. Have fun. Like, so I got back, and I had, this was before I knew about. I still don't know what I'm doing, but I know a little bit more than I did. But I didn't know really how to go places and how to apply and this and that. I was just like, all right, I'm just going to go out and set up a tree stand somewhere and
try and figure out where the animals are moving.
Yeah, I'm just like, I do a lot of online research and figure it out. But then I'm like, well, I can't even do that because there's like one season. I managed to find one. It was an archery only tag that's around Los Angeles.
Oh my gosh, urban hunting or what?
It's like in the San Gabriel Mountains, just outside of Los Angeles, I should say. So Los Angeles County, which is the size of many states, but
concrete jungle is what I call it.
Exactly. But I tried to find that, and I figured it out. But hitting puberty there. But and I had my buddy who started mentoring me, and he's like, okay, this is what you need to do. These are when the applications are due. This is how you kind of do it. You need to listen to these podcasts and da-da-da-da-da. And so before I even ever started getting into hunting, I started this whole living country in the city thing just because I had people asking me like, oh, I see you are shooting your bow, but you live in Los Angeles. I didn't know you could do that. I had friends asking me. And so I was like, well, I should do this thing.
That's a great way to start it.
Yeah, document this journey. Like I had no intention of it really being like a hunting podcast or anything like that. It was just this Instagram and website that I was using to, like, originally I was listing like country concerts and line dancing, like line dance nights too on the website. like, and that's what it was. And
Yeah.
then I started listening to these podcasts, and I had somebody that was encouraging other people to start podcasts, not necessarily hunting ones. It was a different industry, but I was like, this would be an interesting way to document what I'm doing, because I hate blogging. I can never get myself to write, but I got no problem talking with people all day long. So, I get a lot of crap from people that are like, oh, new hunting hasn't even killed anything yet, but he has a podcast. I'm like, whatever. I'm like, you obviously haven't listened to the podcast, because the whole thing is about how I have no clue what I'm doing. But
you're like, no, you're somebody's at my front door. Of course, great. My dog's gonna start barking. Sorry. Hi.
While you're handling that, we'll take just a quick second to hear a word from one of my partners. All right, y'all, we all know that it's possible to get into the backcountry and take that big buck or bull with a set of surplus store camo and a Walmart tent. But let's face it, quality gear can often make the difference between checking out early due to sheer misery and pushing through just a little bit further to find success. But all this gear can start to add up, and that's why I'd recommend shopping at Black Ovis. They carry high-performance hunting gear from all the top brands like Vortex, Crispy, Sitka, First Light, Mountain Ops, and Stone Glacier, often at a nicely discounted rate. I've yet to find anywhere that offers a more reasonable price, plus their shipping is free and their customer service is unmatched. Additionally, by making the choice to shop at Black Ovis, you're supporting a company that's involved in and gives back to the hunting community. It's where I do all my gear shopping, and whether you're just looking to replace a few items or build out a brand new kit, Black Ovis is the one-stop shop for super solid hunting gear. Additionally, you can help support Living Country in the City by doing all your gear shopping at Black Ovis. Visit livingcountryinthecity.com/Black Ovis, bookmark the link, and use it whenever you do your shopping. But yeah, so, all right, getting back to it. Let's get back into it. So, we actually, you mentioned Jess Byers a little bit ago. Everyone who listens knows I headed out there I've had her on the podcast twice. I headed out to Texas for a hog hunt with her and Braxton, which had an incredible amount of just ups and downs. Like, it was one of the most emotionally and mentally draining weeks of my life, and we talked about that. But you fairly recently went on a rather adventurous hunt with Jess, didn't you?
Yes, we had the most insane trip. It was the trip of a lifetime for sure, and especially, it's not just a trip of a lifetime, but what made it so amazing is being with Jess. 2 women hunting and just like getting it done and powering through the most intense terrain that you've ever been through. We started off in Australia, and that was amazing because we were with which they're also very well known in the bow hunting community, and Jess and her husband were able to go as well. So I'd met Jess once before that at a trade show, and we hung out for a night, but it was never like, let's go hunting together. But we ended up both connecting with Adam and Kimmy and going at the same time, and so it was exciting. I was like, I've never met them before. I'm so excited. We're on team. All of us are on Team UA together, Under Armour. So we trekked over to Australia. And before we left, Jess called me and she was like, hey, I just would like to get some tips. I'm heading to New Zealand after. And, she was asking me because I'm a part of Garmin as well. And I use a text messaging device that they have that works off of satellite. So I can stay connected even when there's no service. And so
trust me, I am very familiar with the Garmin InReach. It is the reason it probably saved my life when I went on my first elk hunt last year. So
really, well, that's always a good story because those things. That's what they're there to do, and not many people know about them. Really, it's becoming more and more well known. The company used to be called DeLorme, and that's who I started working with was DeLorme, and then they were. bought out by Garmin, and so it still is done on like the Iridium satellites, but it's now with Garmin. So it's now called the Garmin InReach, and so I stayed on with them with Garmin, and so that's how, Jess. That's what Jess was asking about, because she wasn't going to have service where she was at, and it's so important, especially for loved ones, to know that you're okay. Because when you're in terrain like that, or by yourself, like I use it a ton because I hunt a lot solo, and so it's the only reason I do. That's the only reason I hunt solo. If I didn't have that, I would not feel comfortable being out there by myself, because I know if something were to happen, I can always just press the SOS button and help is on the way. So for me, it's like, my safety net. But so that's, Jess called me and was asking me about Garmin, and I was like, oh my gosh, how fun, you're going to New Zealand. I've been there once before and it was so much fun. So, it was left at that. Well, we're in Australia. We're having such a great time. I just clicked immediately with Jess and Braxton, and we had an awesome trip there. I got a fallow, just killed a ton of stuff. She killed a fallow doe, a pig. Gosh.
I was I was definitely following along for that whole trip, because that was just after my hog hunt with her, and she was I don't know if she'd announced any of the trip yet, but she was telling me about it, and I was just listening to her talk about it, I was so stinking excited for all of you that I was like bated breath following along on yours and hers and Braxton's and the Green Trees pages. Like that was my consolation for been stuck in the office right after a week of hunting. So was following you guys.
I was so surprised. There was really so many people that were following that journey, which is so cool. I mean, a lot of people that I've seen just even in the industry, they're like, I didn't even trade. Like, I saw everything, so I know it was amazing, but like, you gave me so much pain or what? I mean, and two, it's really cool to meet people that are just so amazing, and you just connect with, like, on a different level of like understanding. And what's so crazy is I feel like I found that so much in hunters that it blows my mind. Like, it's just, the hunting community is so full of really good people, genuine, they have great values and morals and ethics, and it's hard work being a hunter. You have to put in work. You cannot just like lay in a bed and watch TV and kill a deer. It's work. You have to put in the effort. And I feel like, hunting has brought me to so many cool people like Adam and Kimmy and Jess. So just being able to be there with them and connect with them and just like see that same fire that I have in them is just like, oh my gosh, okay, well, basically, like, when are we all going to live in the same town? What other hunts are we going to go on? Like, when you just meet those people that are super cool. So, yeah, we did Australia together, and the guide from New Zealand messaged Jess, and he goes, hey, are you sure you don't want Braxton to come? We have plenty of room. There's room for one more person. Like, I've got extra food, and there's room on the helicopter. And, I mean, are you sure Braxton can't go? And she asked Braxton, she's like, are you sure you can't go? Because he's saying there's room. And I'm sitting there in the car, and I was just like, pretty quiet. And Braxton goes, Jess, what about Rihana? Have Rihana go. And she goes, what did she say? She said something. It was really funny, like obviously a cuss word. And she goes, what the heck? Would you want to go? Can you go? But the question is, can you go? And I was like, well, I have summer clothes with me. Like, I'm hunting in a tank top, and, I've got some, like, long pants, and that's about all. I have no gloves, no thick gloves. I had no, like, late season gear at all, obviously. And we were leaving in a week and a half. Or, we were leaving Australia. So I said, well, I mean, if I can get some sponsors to send me some stuff and get it there in time, that would be the biggest thing. Then yeah, I'm down. And so we were able to get it set up and get all the gear in time. And yeah, I headed to New Zealand with her too. It was crazy. It was a month-long hunt. And Jess says this too. She's like, honestly, I didn't invite you before because we'd never really hung out that much. And I didn't know that I'd want to spend a month with you. I mean, what if you were, what if we didn't get along? And that's so true. I mean, you never know that you're going to click so well with somebody until you meet them. So I was like, trust me, Gail, I would have done the same thing. But
no.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was a crazy trip with her. We had so much fun and found out a lot about ourselves on that trip.
No, it was like I said, it was definitely an epic trip. It was so much fun to follow along with. And so, I mean, how many weeks was it again?
We were gone for 4 weeks. We left April 1st and didn't get back till June 1st.
Okay.
Yep. So it was a whole month we were gone.
Wait.
So 2 weeks in Australia and 2 weeks in New Zealand, 2 weeks in Australia.
That would be 2 months, though, what you just said. April 1st to June 1st.
May and June we were gone.
Okay.
Oh, no. April, May we were gone. Sorry. I was back for 1 month, and then I went on another trip. So, because I was gone from the first, at the beginning of the year, I booked a trip to Greece with my best friend. And then this whole Australia thing came up. And so I had to go on that. And then while I was in Australia, New Zealand happened. So my mind is kind of all over the place. I literally haven't been home in the past year so far. So
there we go. Yeah, I'm looking at your airport picture right now, and that's from May 1st. And then
yes, May 1st.
Yeah. So scrolling back. So May 1st to June 1st, pretty much.
Yes.
There we go. Got it all sorted.
Yes, May 1st. Okay, sorry.
Whew. That was an event.
That was tough. I'm like, all I know is I was there, and it was amazing. I don't know dates. I don't know what day of the week it is sometimes. So
I should have actually known that, because I remember it was just after it was not too long after the Texas hunt, and
nice.
I remember it was while I went on a 9-10 state road trip.
Oh, that's
And I
fun.
remember it was while I was on that road trip, I was watching. I remember it was like on that trip, I'd kind of like get where I was going for the night and like sit down and catch up on the adventures from the day.
That's so awesome. Yeah. If anyone could ever go to Australia or New Zealand, especially like New Zealand, Australia is hard because it's so much private land. Basically, that's what Australia is. There are not hunting lands, but there are federal lands, or what we would call like BLM, but you can't hunt them mostly. They're small little pockets, but so it's not set up for hunting, really, Australia. But New Zealand, oh my gosh, like if you could go there and hunt, I would highly suggest. Absolutely
it's definitely
incredible.
I mean, I don't have, short of going up to like Canada or back down to Mexico, like I don't really have huge aspirations to travel anywhere. But if the opportunity came for me to hunt out of the States, like do a travel hunt, I mean, New Zealand is definitely high on the list without a doubt.
Yeah.
There's a few things, just doing the podcast and hearing what other people love to hunt and various travels and exciting stuff they've done. And, it's always exciting to see that stuff, but I'm just so head over heels for elk. Like, I don't think there's any greater animal in the world. And
see, I felt that way too until I went after tahr. I mean, I love elk, and there's nothing, if I could hunt one animal for the rest of my life, it would 100% be elk hunting, archery elk hunting, during the rut. But, that tahr hunt, it was so hard and so cool. It was just like looking at your, backdrop that you're hunting on and just thinking, wow, like I can't even put into words how beautiful this is and how deadly it is, at the same time. It's just like you have to watch every step and you have to really be on your A game. And not only that, you have to have that mental strength. Like, conquering a mountain is really hard, especially in New Zealand. It's really tough terrain. So I think for me, because that hunt was one of the hardest ones I've ever done, now I'm like, okay, that is like my unicorn. Like, I have to get a tar. I have to go back and I have to make it happen with my bow, because it's just, you know, you find that thing that's so hard and you're like, okay, that's what I need to get after. That's what I need to do. So
yeah,
I'm like counting down the days till I can go back. And Jess and I have talked about going back a few times. So hopefully we can do that for sure. For me, like most people's dream is to go after stag in New Zealand. For me, I'm like, nope, tar all the way. Tar.
Yeah.
Like I never have to go after stag again. I would love to just chase tar forever.
Well, I feel like, you know, stag are cool and all, but is it really all that different from hunting elk?
It is, because, I mean, you can call stag in, and, I mean, it's pretty cool, actually. It is very similar. I mean, they're big, but they're actually fierce species, so it's strange. They're so huge, you're like, there's no way that's a freaking deer, and they look a lot like elk. And there's some stag at Adam's place that I'm like, is that an elk rock or is that stag? Like, what the heck? Because they look so similar. But I mean, heck yeah, if I could get a stag too, and even fallow deer, I mean, those things were cool. The way that any animal really, I mean, they all have their own attributes. But I think tar, you can't even hear them. They don't call. They make no noise. They don't. I mean, they fight obviously, but that's not super loud typically, and mostly what you hear from them is like the rocks falling. But they'll make noise. They like kind of whistle if you get close to them or you scare them or something like that, but they're not going to let you know where they are like an elk but it's just, I think, as the challenge of the terrain, that's why I liked it so much. But I mean, you know, if you've hunted elk, then that's basically your unicorn right there.
It's definitely, I mean, I look at a lot of stuff. Like, I mean, my bucket list hunt is definitely an Alaskan brown bear hunt with my bow.
Ooh, yeah.
That is right now my I would say that's the top of my list. Like, that's my unicorn hunt, my bucket list hunt.
Yeah.
But that's not
Those
something I would
scary.
really ever want to do again after that. I mean, you know, I would probably want to, but I mean, that's just something I want to do once and have that experience. And I mean, I'm a dude that's like hunting a bear with a bow. Come on. Like, I've talked about it on the podcast before. Like, I remember when I was first ever, like years ago, when somebody wanted to take me dove hunting, I was looking at hunting regs in California, and I was like, wow, bear season. That's crazy. I'm like, archery bear season? Holy crap. Like, I just remember thinking like that was so far out of the realm. And now I'm sitting here thinking like, oh man, you know, I wonder when I can get that scheduled and when I can afford it. But
yeah, I know brown bear are crazy.
I don't know, but when it comes to something that I would think about, like, you know, this is the animal I'm passionate about, that I want to always hunt, that I'm fascinated with it, like I dream about, it's always going to be elk.
For sure.
Like, mule deer are cool. I think mule deer are awesome. You know, I've got a aoudad hunt in February that I'm doing in New Mexico, and like, I think those are so cool, and I'm super excited to do that. But it's all just like, yeah, they're cool. I want to hunt those. I'm super excited to hunt that, but it's not elk.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you got to try everything once, and then maybe one of those animals will surprise you, and it'll be something you want to do forever, because you never know. Like, I always said that too about elk, and then I went tar hunting, and I'm like, okay, great. Well, now it's elk and tar, so like, what the heck? Well, and then too, I think it's also like, if I had gotten a tar, it may be a different story, but I didn't. So, you know, now it's like, that's why I have
You're hungry for it.
I didn't get one. That's the one that got away, you know. But I just couldn't imagine not wanting to be on those landscapes and in that like tough terrain. I think tar and elk are good for me. I'm actually going to Alaska this year, because I've never been either, and that's always been a place where I've been like, I just want to go to Alaska so bad and hunt something. But it's always been like, you know, if you draw tags or whatever. I put in for a black bear in Alaska, but I haven't drawn it yet. But weird, crazy, I drew Alaska moose, like a limited tag. That
nice.
is a really hard area to get. And so I drew that, and So I'm doing that this year, which is really freaking exciting. And especially, too, because I love moose meat. That was one of the first game animals that I actually ate was moose.
Okay.
And I loved it. Ground moose burgers, and then like trying to figure out, do I need to like drive up there, take the ferry, or what, so I can get as much meat back as possible, as long as I get one. Hopefully.
Yeah.
That's the plan, at least. But
of course you will. No doubts. No doubts in my mind.
Well, it's all archery, so it's a lot harder. I've been shooting a lot, though, and I've been shooting pretty good, so hopefully it'll all come together. But I've just heard incredible things about those animals and the terrain that they're in, and like how tough they are, too. So hopefully it'll all come together.
Yeah, no, moose is definitely, too, so. Without a doubt, moose is on the list for me.
Yeah.
I forget, with Alaska, do you have to have a guide with Alaska, or?
It depends on the animal. So moose, you don't have to have a guide. Caribou, you don't have to. If it's goat or brown bear or bear, you have to have a guide. So.
Okay.
So yep, you're gonna have to have one for show. But
I'm definitely not going on a solo brown bear hunt.
Yeah.
That's
it's just sheep and bear that you have to have a guide.
I'm not the brightest person, but I ain't that dumb.
Well, have you seen some of those videos of the brown bears? It's like, oh my gosh. I mean, I think that would be a rush and a thrill, but I'm like, that's like one thing that definitely scares me.
I posted a picture not too long ago, like a vintage picture that I can't even remember who originally posted it, who I shared it from, but I think Easton may have been the ones that shared it originally, but it was Chuck Adams with this brown bear, and like just looking at that photo, like I got chills up and down, like on my phone, I got chills up and down my back, and just I'm like, it's hard to believe, and then like, I think
you should go. Do you follow Cole Kramer?
I'm pretty sure I do. I know the name, if nothing else.
He is a huge brown bear. He got some absolute giants this year. So you'll have to go and follow him and check out his page. Because looking at the pictures, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I would pee my pants if I saw that. Especially in bow range. Like I would probably, in those situations that you train for it, but at the same time, like, I don't know that I'd be able to draw my bow back. I think I would be so scared.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, yeah, I definitely follow Cole. I know. Yeah. I know these pictures.
He's one of the greatest brown bear hunters, or guides that I know, grizzlies and stuff like that, so.
Ooh, I know who I might have to be calling in a year or two.
I know, right? I'm not even sure how much those run, but
oh, man.
I think I'll go with caribou and sheep and some moose.
Well, who was it?
I love bow hunting.
I think it was Cam. Didn't Cam last year take a brown? I don't know if it was last year, but didn't he take a brown bear that was actually reared up at him?
He has before. Well, he's black bear. Like, I know that he's had a lot of black bear encounters. Mm-hmm. And he has taken a brown bear, but I don't remember the exact story about that because it was several years ago. I think it was before I even knew him. So, I don't think I heard about that hunt, but I know he's had so many crazy close encounters with the black bears up at John and Jen Rivet's place. And I've seen all those videos, and oh my gosh, I'm like, you are so crazy. What are you even doing? Like, they're right there. And with black bears, I'm not as scared. Like, I've seen so many of them. They are like way more scared of you than you are of them. Yeah. Like, they see you or even hear you coming and they're like, gone. Nope, not going to even find out what that is. So, me, I'm not too scared of them, but brown bears, yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah. And it's like,
watch out for.
I think you end up forgetting to some extent how small black bears actually are. Like, they're a sturdy, heavy animal that I'm not going to pick a fight with if I had a choice. Yeah. But, you forget they'll stand about, 6 foot most of the time, and sometimes even shorter. And some of them look like a really big, oversized dog. Like,
and that's been my biggest problem is I've seen so many of them out in the wild, but it's a lot of times when I'm bow hunting, and guess what? I have a bear tag in my pocket, but I'm like, it's a baby. That's a baby. That's a baby. I'm not shooting that. That's a cub. I'm not shooting that. And people I'm with, they're like, Rihana, that is not a freaking cub. And I'm like, it looks like one. that looked like a cub to me, and in that split decision, I'm always like thinking of like, okay, where's mom? Like, I'm not going to shoot a baby. Like, I'm not going to shoot a little bear. So for me, I've really realized that no, it's not always a baby. It's usually, a yearling or a smaller bear, or even, I don't know, a big sized bear. But to me, they always look small when they're that close in bow range, I guess. But I did have an experience last year when I was hunting, and this was legitimately a little cub. It was so tiny. It was like the size of my little dog. And I was by myself, and I'm elk hunting, and I just jumped a doe and her fawn. And so I was kind of standing there, and I was just like, okay, whatever. They ran off, and I was just standing there, and I heard something coming, like literally right to my right. And I was like, what the heck is that? So I look over, and it is a little tiny cub. And I had a tree in front of me, so on the path, like, I couldn't see what was coming after it. Like, I didn't even know if there was something coming after it. But I was like, oh, my gosh. I could literally reach out and touch this little cub. I'm like, great. Where is the mom? Like, this is insane. I set my bow down on the ground while this thing's sitting there looking at me like, oh, what are you? Like, it had no idea. It was like, oh, this isn't danger. It didn't run. It was, like, actually coming towards me. And I'm like, set my bow on the ground, and I like grab my gun because I'm like, okay, well, here comes the mom somewhere. Like, I'm about to be a snack for her. Like, she's going to attack me, because literally all she would have to do is reach out and swat me. And because that's how close the cub was. And so I set my bow down, grabbed my gun, and I seriously, that little thing just like was like, oh, what are you? Like, you're my friend. Like, and I wanted so bad to just be like, oh, cuddle it.
Don't cuddle the bear cub. Do not cuddle the bear cub.
Don't cuddle the bear cub. So I'm sitting there holding my gun, just like waiting for the mom, and I'm trying to scare this little thing away. I'm like, get away from me. What are you doing? I like reached my hands up, and I'm like trying to spook it off, and finally it ended up like sauntering off slowly. It's like, okay, obviously I shouldn't be around this thing. But I'd never been so scared. I was just like, oh, okay, well, basically I'm here by myself. I have no service, and I'm about to be eaten by a mom. But
what's quicker? A bear bleeding me out, or me pressing that SOS button so they can at least find my body?
Probably bleed out. But I mean, at least I had a gun just in case. But at the same time, it was freaky. It's a freaky moment in outdoors, but it was fun. It was cool to see too. I got the tail in, because I don't know who films that kind of stuff when they get that on tape. But for me, I'm thinking about my life. I'm like, I'm not going to pull out my phone and start filming. I'm holding my gun for dear life, making sure that mom isn't coming around. So finally, like, I caught the tail end of it sauntering away, but it was really cool. But that's one thing you want to be, if you, like, I'm scared of a sow with cubs more than I'm scared of, a big boar black bear. Just because they're a lot more territorial and will attack you. A lot of times, though, they'll bluff charge you. So they'll kind of like, they'll run at you, and then typically they'll stop because they just want to see if you're going to run away, and then they'll chase after you. But if you stand your ground, and that's why they always say stand your ground with the bear, is if you stand your ground, then they'll typically stop and then, leave or saunter off, which happened to Adam a few times with the grizzly bears. And I think he was in Montana. So they do the same thing. But yeah, right. Those ones I would probably run. Grizzly bears are a lot freakier, I feel like. But.
Yeah, that'd be, I don't know, that'd be tough. Like, I can't even imagine. And it's one of those things, I until the day it happens, I won't ever know how I'll react. It's just,
yeah.
I think I know what I would do, but likelihood is that just maybe is barely dipping its toe in reality compared to what I would actually do. Yeah. And just bring an extra set of camo pants, and we're good.
Exactly. I think when you're confronted with those tough situations, though, you really find out your true character. You're like, okay, well, what would I do in this situation? Oh, run. And then you find out, okay, actually, no, I kept my composure and I did a good job. So I think that's what one of the coolest things about hunting is, you, especially solo or when you're just like out there and you're just depending on yourself, you're like, okay, well, I don't really know where I am right now. Like, okay, don't panic, don't freak out, or, you get stuck in a weird situation. Like, I've been in bushes so thick that I'm like, I I'm just going to lay here for like 10 minutes while I try and collect myself and not be so upset about this and how I got myself here. And then I'm going to go back after it. So that's what's pretty cool is, you know, that's what hunting has done for me, is really just made me feel like I could do anything, I guess. So that's what I like about it, I guess.
You know, well, so as we're winding down, you know, kind of tying off of what you've learned from hunting, you know, I always like to kind of wind down with maybe some tips or some advice for someone. Say somebody came to you at an expo and was like, hey, you know, I follow you on Instagram. I really, you know, love all this hunting stuff. I don't have any background in it, or I don't have these resources. What do I do? So what kind of words of wisdom or advice would you give that person?
Well, I was talking about the ladies hunting camp before, and so I'll give two pieces of advice. Because if you're a woman, then you can do this ladies hunting camp, which is like one of the coolest things that I've ever been a part of. And I honestly feel like they need it for men as well, because I think it's all values and things that we can all learn as hunters. But if you're a woman and you were to ask me, I would say go to this camp. There's 2 in Oregon and 1 in Utah. And I mean, the need is there for more in other places. Like I've had so many other women, even in Canada, like, oh, I'd love to do this, but I'm in Canada. Or, you know, over in New York, which we actually had 2 women. One came from Connecticut, one came from Virginia to this camp. And I mean, I know there's going to be tons of gals this next weekend from all over, but yeah, so you can come to this camp and learn all about archery. I teach archery there. There's rifle instructor. There's shotgun instructor. There's self-defense, how to put in for tags, what to put in your pack, how to load a horse and, you know, and go backpacking. There's a demo on quartering up an elk and processing it, and backcountry hunting. There's even like the game hunting class. So you can sign up for all these different classes. And I mean, I think that would be the ultimate way for a new hunter to learn, just because you're learning from seasoned hunters who are, you know, going to give you the best information that they can. So for women, that's what I would tell them. For men, I guess there's a need for a class like that. I think it's so important too. Not just passing on any information, but it's the right information. And whereas I'm like, I know so much about archery, you know, I would give them that information. But I think, you know, with rifle and shotgun and all that kind of thing, it would just depend on, you know, what it is that they're wanting to hunt. And that's probably what I would ask, honestly, is, but also to take it upon yourself to learn, and for me, what I did is I bought a ton of books. So Stephen Rennell is a great resource. He really, like, you know, he has some of the best values that I've seen in a hunter. So he has some great resources, some amazing books.
His complete guidebooks are incredible.
Yes, exactly. Like I would say buy his complete guidebook and then start there. Or 2, just using your local, like we have Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, using your local Fish and Wildlife as your resource. So you can go into any office and start talking to game officers. And a lot of the time, they are such a wealth of knowledge and they want to help you. I mean, that's what they're there for. They're out in the woods frequently. You know, they know what kind of animals there are, how many populations, good areas to go. And typically, they are so wonderful and they'll help you. So that's where I started too, you know, going to your local offices. So
and one thing to tack onto that note,
yes,
because a lot of the times if you're not able to go into the office, or if you have to call them and leave a message, make sure you write down, like in your phone, the list of questions you want to ask. Because when I was prepping for my elk hunt, I was like, I had to cross through one unit and was hunting in the next unit. And so I was calling the rangers, the wildlife biologists and everyone for both units. And of course, you know, I'll leave a message with someone, this and that, and they'll get back to me and blah, blah, blah. But the problem is they got back to me and I had written down my questions, but they were on just a sheet of scrap paper at my desk, and I did not have them in front of me. And I was like completely caught off guard and asked probably I got maybe 2 valuable questions out of that entire conversation, and I probably sounded
but
like...
they were willing to help you. Like, I'm sure they were willing to help you and tell you what your questions were.
And they, and he... And that's one thing. And depending on the person you get, sometimes they'll give you just directly what they're, because that's what they're there for, is to, for a lot
Eating
of reasons. But that's a big portion of what they're there for. And so some of them will just give you direct answers exactly to your questions. Other ones, you'll ask them a question and they'll expand on it a little bit and tell you a story, and it'll bring up other stuff. So depending on who you get, you'll get a little bit more or less depending on the biologist you get to, for sure. Especially
if you're a guy. So listen, you can go into the office. It's usually the gals that are at the front desk. They've got all of the maps there. So any office that I've ever gone to, they have tons of maps for that unit or that area that you're in. Usually those gals do every single thing that the officers here talk about, and so they have so much knowledge too. So if you can actually go into whatever office that's nearby, because each place has, in Oregon at least, and even in California, because you have the different areas you have to check in, you can go into the office and talk to them. They are a wealth of knowledge too, and that's what I usually have done. So you can talk to the rangers, but also talk to those gals at the front desk, and sweet talk them, and usually they'll help you out, and they're great gals too. And like any woman, like I know for me, I want to share my knowledge, and I want somebody asks me a question, I'm going to answer honestly. If you ask me where I'm hunting or location or what creek I'm at, but any other information that I help with in aiding somebody become a better hunter, or things that I've learned along the way, I'm always happy to pass that on. Because guess how I got where I am? By other people teaching me. There's no way I would have learned what I know. Well, I mean, a lot of it's, you have to figure it out on your own in the field, but certain things like how to quarter an animal, or how to do certain things, or which way to cut against the grain of the meat. It's all things that I've learned from other people because they want to teach you. So I feel like as a hunter, or any person that's a hunter, they should want to pass on their knowledge, and it's important because the only way that hunting is going to stay what it is as long as there's, future generations that want to keep doing it. So got to pass it on.
Very important to pass it on to more people than just your immediate descendants, if you will.
Exactly. But yeah, so if anyone out there is a lady or has a wife or has somebody that's not sure if they want to hunt, I would 100% suggest this ladies hunting camp. I feel like it's a great resource for women. And there's a lot of guys that come too. So they come, they don't participate in the classes, but their wives do. So the men are welcome as well. They can't come to the classes, but, if you have a girlfriend who wants to know, or say both of you want to know, send her and have her learn everything, and then she can teach you. Because it is a really fun thing to learn as a couple. It usually goes pretty well. I don't know, but from what I've seen at the ladies hunting camp that come with their husbands, usually when you learn something together, then it can have a huge impact on a positive impact on your relationship. So,
no, that's really a good point, is for a lot of couples, because I think you do end up with one person tending to learn it more from the other, or being brought into it by the other, and learning that together is an awesome, I can imagine is an awesome way to strengthen that relationship and always have a good hunting partner.
Exactly. And I'm sure you'll have your fights, so just get ready for that. But as long as you can overcome them, you'll be fine.
Exactly.
But every hunter has their own way of doing things as well. So you never, force what you think on another person. It's like, well, this is how I do it. But, you can develop your own way. There are very strong ethics that are involved that everyone should follow. But, a certain way that you want to stalk an animal, or a certain route you want to take, or a certain hill you want to climb, or, a certain east facing slope you want to glass. It's up to you along the way, but there are certain guidelines that you're supposed to follow.
Yeah, unless you're the one, it should be left up to the one who's pulling. The final decision should be left up to the one who's pulling the trigger or knocking the arrow.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's up to them to take in all the advice and make their decisions.
Exactly.
So if people wanted to find you on the interwebs, I know you've got accounts on all the different things.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
So I'm biggest on Instagram. I do a lot on that. I do have Facebook, Rihana Cary on Facebook. I have a YouTube cooking channel where I have all different recipes, and that's Rihana Cary or Ree's Recipes. But you can put in Rihana Cary too, and it'll come up. So that's really good for people who need help on what to cook. And then, Facebook, Twitter, it's all Rihana Cary, basically. I don't do a lot on Twitter. I probably should more, but I do have an account on there. But if you really want to see what I'm doing, Instagram's the best way.
That's okay. I mean, I pretty much, my Instagram post to my Facebook post to my Twitter, and pretty much everything's identical across the board.
Exactly.
So,
it takes a lot of time. Social media is a full-time job for sure.
Without a doubt. Well, thank you so much for taking the time tonight and hopping on a call.
Of course.
And I guess your window guy never came.
I know.
Or your porch light guy, or your door guy, or whatever he was doing.
No, my door guy. Because, I don't know if you've ever tried to put a door on the hinges by yourself, but it's real hard. So I was like, could you come over and help me put this on? But yeah, he didn't come, so I'm going to have to text message him. For
shame. He's getting called out on, not a huge podcast, but getting called out on a podcast. For shame.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me, and thanks for the great chat.
Absolutely. All right, y'all, that'll do it for episode 77 of Living Country in the City. A big thank you to Rihana for taking time out of her busy day to hop on the line with me and talk a little bit about hunting. Make sure y'all head on over to our show notes page at livingcountryinthecity.com/77 to check out everything we talked about in today's episode. But in the meantime, keep it country, y'all.
Thank y'all for listening to Living Country in the City. Get show notes and check out the blog, product reviews, events, and more at livingcountryinthecity.com.